Secret friends, unite!
Welcome to the Secret Friends Unite podcast, episode 509. This is your guide to the geek side, and I'm one of your hosts, Todd Oxtra, and we are here to bring the good geek to all of you, joined by Charlie Carden, who's also here to do the same.
Wenceslas is a geek. Now, that just made me think of A Christmas Carol, but it's January and it's cold, so it's just as cold as it could be in December. But yeah, what's going on? We're recording on a Sunday night, which is rare. That's why I decided to flip my camera around.
We used to do it all the time.
Yeah. Was it? I always felt like
Sunday night was always the...
Yeah, I always felt like it was an afternoon deal. But regardless, yeah, we're here. Got a lot of fun stuff to talk about, including a movie. The first... I've seen 2 movies in the theaters this year. This was the one that I didn't want to walk out of. So I think that develops a good trend. I like it. And probably your first movie, right? This is your first movie of 2025?
I think so.
Yeah. But so we're going to get into that and news and all that different stuff. But as usual, we have our announcements, we have our homage, and then we got a couple of special bits of news as well. Always like to talk about the awesome folks in our Patreon Secret Friends Squad. If you pop over to patreon.com/secretfriendsunite, you get to try us out for 7 days for free and stay on board with a little as $2 a month. Why would you want to do such a thing? Because you get early programs, ad-free programs, 2 great years worth of awesome content that we've been stacking up and having a good time sharing with you. It's definitely worth $2 a month. I'm telling you, it's a fraction of a visit to Starbucks. It's crazy. These great folks are on our besties level. My friend Derek Trevelyan, the figure dude. Francie, who does my wife's hair, loves our Bad Movies podcast. Mr. Luke Lore, the Xbox Expansion Pass, and my Uncle Tim. Heck of a great guy. Friends with Benefits level, John Sedorf, the awesome Phoenix Sisters Entertainment, Kelly and Crayley. You know they have an event coming up, and we'll talk about that in a quick second here. Brendan Myers, Corey in HD, Matthew Keel, my journalist pal and writer to the stars, Kurt Krug, and Tanya Lee. Ooh, you threw me off. Tanya. And these wonderful folks, without whom we would have not, the awesome, nice family of the Twin Cities, Sean, Still, and Henry. We are grateful for all of you. Again, Secret Friends, patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. 1 week for free, $2 a month. Who are you to resist it? But while you're not busy resisting it, you can actually tune in the weekend of the week that this comes out. This usually drops on a Tuesday. We've been talking about the multiverse fundraiser that Kelly, our partner, and her partner Crayley are putting on. I'm actually going to be part of their live content. There's a panel this upcoming Sunday, January 26th at noon Central and 1 Eastern about being a collector. You can tell that's kind of something I do. So I'm excited to be a part of that. But really overall, their event is about raising money for charity. So multiversefundraiser.com for more instructions on how to tune in and how to contribute. Finally, coming up this week, I'll be having a conversation with Star Trek Enterprise actor John Billingsley. You might recognize that name because he was one of our very first interviews we did on our Patreon back in early 2023. But he is an enormous advocate of the Hollywood Food Coalition, which now more than anything else is supporting folks affected in Southern California by the horrendous string of wildfires that they're dealing with right now. The website, hofoco.org, hofoco.org for more details and to donate. And again, John and I will be connecting probably this week. So you'll be getting a special message from him about that. So, that's a lot of talking by me. I'm going to kick it over to Todd.
Very good. Well, this week on We Got This Covered, coming straight out of August 1976. It was the year of the bicentennial. There we go.
And me,
oh
you got
my,
me.
And well, it was August, Charlie. You were old news by then.
Oh yeah, 6 months old, absolutely.
Yep, exactly. You're throwing in the garbage. We want something new. But we are brought for the Marvel Spotlight on The Moon Knight for 25 cents. You can get this amazing issue where it says, "You are but a pawn in Conqueror's Lord Master Plan." Says a man with a mace around a bunch of chess pieces who are shooting out fire,
like Harry Potter.
And then it says, and a pawn is doomed to die. So you got a pawn, haha, funny. There's chess, and Moon Knight has an axe that shatters. And Moon Knight doesn't look, and I never noticed this. I thought he had a cape, but it looks like his cape is connected to his sleeve.
You know, that's a first, because he totally, his traditional look is to have a cape, because he was in the West.
Sides connect to his sleeve. That's weird. So is it like a parachute?
I mean, maybe it was twisted. Maybe it was laundry day and he was wearing like, oh God, I got to wear this because my other stuff is at the dry cleaners. But I do love the mace. It reminds me of that recent segment you and I did on our Patreon about Mr. Burns and his mace. So maybe that's and that guy's outfit. He's orange, yellow stripe, red stripe, and a mask. Could it be Mr. Burns? What do you think? And he's like an exoskeleton.
Well, it looks like he has a sash because the thing goes across to maybe it says
but he's turned to the
Conqueror
side.
Lord on it or something. So we would never know. I don't think Mr. Burns. While he had a mace, I don't really think he could pick up a mace. So I think it's more like a prop mace.
Right, exactly. Most definitely not.
Mace is one of those weapons, though. I feel like you are going to hurt yourself more likely than hurt somebody else.
You remember in your favorite Star Wars movie, Return of the Jedi, when Wicket the Ewok is spinning around his thing and he just knocks himself out. So but this would be a lot more dangerous because the mace is a big metal ball with spikes on it. So regardless,
But I like this though. It does say though. So basically. Apparently, Conqueror Lord is going to assassinate a mayoral candidate, but things take a turn for the disastrous when Moon Knight's lover and girl Friday, Marlene, is kidnapped and suspended over a pit of alligators.
That sounds like a very Austin Powers kind of scenario, right? Don't you think?
I mean, exactly. Sharks with laser beams, pit of alligators.
Right.
What's next?
It's
rabid hamsters.
Oh, so I remember when I was watching a movie with you. I was out there in Minnesota. This was 20 years ago. And you were talking to me about different sci-fi channel, monster movies. You said, what's next? Snails. Think about it. Just, coming
rabid
down from
snails.
the ceiling. Rabbit. They're instead of being slow, they're fast. I don't know. It's too terrifying to think about. But I did read a script like that once, and you know who wrote that script? It was our senior news correspondent, Madam Webb. She's very talented, doing all kinds of different things in show business, but these days she works for us. She's down at the corner of Hollywood and Vine, waiting to give us the biggest news scoops of the week. Let's make it happen.
Now it's time for Madam Webb's Rumors and News. Take it away, boys.
Thank you, Madam Webb. Madam Webb, it is that time of the year where if you are a football fan, you live in large. And of course, you remember the days when the GI shipped out and only the gals could play football. So you started the all ladies football league. You basically became part of the, I believe it was the Kansas City Crones. And you had a desperate attempt. You went 0-13, but you know what? You did a lot of side betting, so you came out on top.
Oh my God, she's the grifter extreme. Well, first and foremost, we do have some sad news in the world of high-level filmmaking. We have lost David Lynch, who gave us the absolutely incredible Twin Peaks. Spoofed in The Simpsons, as I was saying in the B-roll. I'm always thinking about The Simpsons. What can I say? But he also gave us, Todd, where's some of his other bigger works? I'm now trying to think of a movie. The Blue Velvet, wasn't that a big one?
Blue Velvet was a big one. Eraserhead, Mulholland Drive.
That one was so crazy.
He did, I think he did Existence. Was that one of his movies that I saw that was just so weird and creepy? It was basically like VR, but things would go in your head. Then it was Wild at Heart, the Nicolas Cage movie, where essentially he channeled Elvis with Willem Dafoe, where Willem Dafoe says something really gross to Laura Dern, which I'm like, I love it. I'm digging it. But yeah, I would say for most people, Twin Peaks captured the world's attention at a time when weird stuff was just not on TV, and this was
Right.
primetime. ABC.
Yeah,
I mean,
ABC.
Who Killed Laura Palmer captured the nation, and it was amazing how he did it. Kyle MacLachlan became a star out of this. A few others also became. For instance, Ray Wise became, amazing character actor.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, lots of crazy characters like the backwards talking little person
Right.
from all the hallucinations.
Don't eat the clues. That was Lisa
Yep.
Simpson.
We had the log lady. Yeah. And then season 2, David Lynch decided, I'm not going to give what everyone expected. Then we found out the killer was actually like a weird spirit. And I believe there was 2, maybe 3 seasons. The show ended. And then it brought back essentially a movie, Fire Walk with Me, which I never saw, but people really enjoyed it, but got weirder. And then Twin Peaks came back on Showtime, I believe, back in 2017.
That's when I started watching it too. Yeah, because
just really absurd. Then you got Kyle MacLachlan. Basically, he had split personalities, or 2 sides of him: an evil side, a good side, and just lots of just going up. That tone that they set with Twin Peaks has been aped in so many different things. Damn good cup of coffee, love pie. Supernatural. Obviously, Dean loved pie. There's video games that have aped it. It's great.
Yeah. That's good stuff. So that is, and we say this all the time. We're at the age, certainly in our generation, we're Gen Xers, we're pushing 50, where we're losing all of the icons of our childhood. So that's a tough one. But it definitely left a legacy that was, and there was a huge outpouring of all of these actors that he worked with. Like you said, Ray Wise, Laura Flynn Boyle, Sherilyn Fenn, all people who were part of that show. So rest in power. He's up directing weird films in the afterlife now, wherever that may have led him. So crazy stuff.
And he even acted in Twin Peaks. He played a senior agent. Yeah.
Nice. Well, speaking of things that are weird and disturbing, you dropped this trailer on me, which I watched a couple of hours ago. Now, did you end up seeing that Happy Death Day film? Because I know you were like, oh, that's one I got to see.
I own both of them on streaming. I need to watch them. I really do want to watch them because I've heard they're fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so that one is a story, without getting into spoilers, of a young lady who learns of if I remember correctly, learns of her death. And I'm trying to remember, she's got a day to get out of it or something. Now I can't remember the plot. But this film, which is called Until Dawn, looks like the same creative team, has to do with a young lady, teenager, early 20-something, grabs a group of her friends and they go to this remote location where her sister disappeared about a year ago. And she wants to crack the code, and they stumble upon this weird house with all these missing posters everywhere. And then as this trailer moves forward, all of the 5-something characters that are part of this group are all murdered. Bear trap, face smashed through a glass, whatever it is, and then flick of the switch, and an hourglass flips upside down, and our main character wakes up again, and everybody's fine. So they're stuck in this Groundhog Day like situation that is where they are is it's a hotel or a hostel or something, has a guest book that every time someone dies and they wake up another day, they write their name down again. No one has gone above a total of 13 times surviving, and no one has made it until dawn. Exactly.
There you go.
So the character, they figure out that they got to do that in order to break out of the what's in Star Trek they would call a temporal causality loop. You're stuck in the same kind of deal, very Groundhog Day kind of thing.
Got a time loop. Everybody, let's do the time loop again, as they would say, Charlie. Yes. But let's not. So, yes, the video game, it's a Sony exclusive video game that came out at the beginning of the PlayStation 4, and it's by Supermassive Games. And they've taken this premise of essentially, it's almost like you get to make some key decisions, and it's like quick time events. So basically something will happen and you'll have to make a quick decision, like go to left, go right, don't breathe or don't make a noise. And those key decisions can decide if you live or die. And it's all about how many people survive. That's what it all is. Like some people can do a perfect run and everybody survives. Like me, though, maybe half get through, which is always fun.
Ouch.
And it's always trying to figure like, well, who survived and how did it do? What choices did you make? And it's been really, I really like what they've done. And they've done this quite a bit, but this was their first attempt. And it had Rami Malek as one of the characters. Also, I'm blanking on her name. She was the cheerleader in Heroes.
Hayden Panettiere.
Yes, she was in it as well. So obviously you're not going to bring those folks back because they are expensive. So you bring in a couple of unknowns. To your point, they are tracking down a sister. They find out there's all of these other people have gone missing. Basically, in the same trap these kids get into is basically they're all living through this where someone dies or they make mistakes. So basically the clock goes back. They have to learn from it. But it sounds like the interesting part is they don't always get killed by the same threat. So it sounds like there's going to be a psycho, the flamethrower guy, as well as the dreaded Wendigo.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of unknowns. And there is one consistent from the video game. Peter Stormare, he's our favorite weirdo guy with an odd accent you don't understand.
Yeah.
He plays a character in Until Dawn, and he's brought into this as well. So I'm liking that they have that little touch point.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out the one girl, and again, you've got, girls in here not wearing a ton of clothes, but the one with the really bushy hair and the raspy voice, she seems familiar. But other than that, it's
Mitchell. I think, the main character. Clover and Maya Mitchell plays, I think, Melanie, and then it would be Ella Rubin would play Clover, her sister. And there's your average group of very ethnic, diverse cast of young teens.
Ethnically diverse and very handsome young, older teens and early 20-somethings. But yeah, I'm in. Are we getting this? We got a date on this? This is
April 25th.
Oh, all right. Look at that. I like it. So yeah, April for horror. I love it.
It's a good window for it. It's that time of the year where they want to bring people in the theaters, and horror films do pretty good. So this looks fun, and I'm in for horror.
Good deal. And before we get to the Ides of April, we have the Ides of March. And this is the day before that, because in the Ides of March, isn't that? No, that's March 15th. So this is before March 15th, but we are getting the much ballyhooed and totally refilmed at one point Daredevil Born Again. We're getting the return of Charlie Cox as the Daredevil character, which was launched almost a decade ago on Netflix. It was going back almost that far.
Yeah.
In that time, the character transitioned into the MCU. There's talk that he's going to potentially be bringing the other characters in the Netflix Marvel-averse along with him. That's the rumor anyway. But no, he had a great spin on She-Hulk, one of my favorite MCU TV properties. And then we also saw him in Echo, which was also great. And that gave us also back Vincent D'Onofrio as the Kingpin. I met him a couple of years ago. Very, very nice guy. But yeah, we got a trailer. Was this a full 2.5 minute trailer, maybe a minute trailer?
Yeah, it was. It was more of like the story, a trailer breaking things down.
Breaking.
We're seeing, I would say one of the biggest things we're seeing is that at this point, the Kingpin is the mayor of New York, and he and Daredevil are seeming to have a truce.
Right.
And because there's a new threat coming through, which I believe the character that's going to be the threat is called the Muse, is they're basically probably either the Kingpin has hired the Muse to cause disruption because he said you got to break some things, or he will be breaking kind of the law to take down a bad dude like the Muse. So I don't know where they're going to go with it. But we are getting we got the Punisher at the very end of this where he looks a little disheveled and I will probably, Charlie, I will not rewatch the Punisher Netflix series. I will watch a recap of it just to see.
And you can send that to me and I will also watch it, and then we can be
exactly. Because I mean, Kingpin's a character where I get who he is and just has never been that interesting to me, but I would like to see kind of what his take is on it, because I've heard it's very good. So.
And you've seen the Kingpin character obviously more. Oh, excuse me. Oh, you've seen him more recently.
It's late, folks. It's like 7 p.m. Eastern.
It is right now. 7:23. But yeah, no, this is very exciting. Gritty. I can't really remember, and this is incredible to see this going on Disney Plus. But even in this trailer, you've got Daredevil snapping a guy's leg, breaking a guy's arm at the elbow, and the blood and all this different stuff. And I'm sure it's only the tip of the iceberg. But yeah, Disney is going all in. They've obviously figured out. It was funny. We finished our MCU film watch yesterday with Deadpool and Wolverine, which I had not seen since the theaters. And it's so violent, and it's so with the effing and jeffing and the bad language. Disney knows Disney has given into the inevitable. They know that there's money there. So they're just going for it. They've age gated stuff, so they're covering their existential butts, and they're just going out there to make that money. So this will be great. I hope it's wonderful. As I had mentioned, there was definitely some quality control in play, because there was a story year and a half ago where Feige walked onto the set of this filming, and based on what he saw, he tossed what had been done, and they went back to plan and did it again. So is Marvel starting to kind of pull out of the post-Endgame nosedive? In really even some of the lousy, some of the
I don't even know if you
shows?
can even do more than say every project is going to be its own thing, and because they're not directed by the same person, they have different budgets.
Yeah,
I think at this point, let's just be happy if we get more good than bad.
Right, exactly. It's like, it's like life in general. No doubt about it. So, all right, moving on. And this touches on something that I'll talk about in the Geek Easy, but I have been loving, and Todd, you've been enjoying as well, Image Comics handling of the G.I. Joe property. G.I. Joe is very big for me, as you can tell by looking around this room, and I talk about it all the damn time. But they have taken, a property from the 80s, G.I. Joe, Real American Hero, and essentially the core characters. They've gone outside of Larry Hama's ongoing title, which I started reading because that launched first and it didn't really grab me, so I've kind of let it go. But I have been all over what they've been doing with these characters and giving them a modern spin. Not because if they tried to take the characters that they were with the 80s, they'd all be our parents' age. And do you really want to see, somebody's dad out there going, "Yo, Joe, ow, my hip"? So they're all, young, and it's kind of like Duke looks like Jack Bauer, and, the Baroness looks like, I'm going to throw out the name of a pretty girl. I don't know.
Kim Kardashian.
Oh, no! Can't take that. But it's, the launch, we had, the miniseries Scarlet, Duke, Cobra Commander, Destro. The main title started pretty recently. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But now in the month of April, and I have to double check and see if these are available for pre-order, because G.I. Joe or Image Comics is not like Marvel in a lot of cases where you can subscribe to the series. So I got to remember that an issue comes out and then go buy it instead of it having it just drop, which is kind of annoying. But whatever, it's like, who really cares? You'll get it figured out because you'll see a headline that said, "Oh, the latest issue of G.I. Joe is out," and you can just go buy it. But yeah, we're getting 5 new one-shots with the overall theme being the Silent Missions, which was G.I. Joe issue 21 in 1984, where it was a wordless assault on by Snake Eyes on Destro's castle to rescue Scarlet, his love. And so these are going to be all the hunting. So Todd, have you tuned in? You read the miniseries that I was talking about. Have you read any of the regular series yet?
I mean, I've just read the 2. I think I have Scarlet. I think I might have Destro to read.
Yeah.
I bought them on Amazon, and I have not read the regular series yet. So I was curious about that. So I'm assuming it's going to be good based on what we've seen and the creative talent. So I am interested in that.
This is, I believe, introducing the Snake Eyes character to the Energon universe, because we've not seen him so far. As I'm remembering, we've gotten Storm Shadow, we've gotten Jinx, we've gotten Scarlet, so we've gotten the ancillary characters. But unless I have a big gap in my brain, we've not had Snake Eyes yet. So I'm kind of excited about this. Yeah, it looks like they're going to be doing a facsimile cover, so I may grab that and slap that on the wall, because I have the facsimile cover of the first issue, the classic G.I. Joe image of Hawk jumping off the tank, and here's our force for the 80s. But yeah, this looks pretty exciting.
So the silent missions, obviously, Snake Eyes can't talk, so it kind of makes sense that he can't
Right.
create dialogue. And it's so funny because they say silent missions on that cover. He's shooting with the machine gun, so that's not very silent either.
Right.
But I think of like Roadblock. The least silent character I think of being silent is Roadblock.
And you're right. He is featured because we see 3 covers here. One is just a pencil drawing of the other, and then the other is the facsimile cover. But and I love the variant covers always blow my mind. Cover C, 1 to 10 incentive cover. Cover D, 1 to 25 incentive cover. Foil. There's only so many of these you can buy and be like, I'm going to frame these too. I remember I worked with a guy at DJ years ago when I was in radio when Marvel's 2015 Star Wars came
Charlie,
out.
they're going to get you. They're going to get you on this one because if you hadn't noticed, the 5 covers, there's one each that has a letter on it. So there are 5 that are each individual letters. So it spells out G.I. Joe. It's the second cover. It's a second cover. So cover B has a big G on it. That is, and then it's I, and then J, and the O, and the. So they're going to get you, Charlie, because you're going to be like, I got to frame him and put him on the wall.
I can't do it. But no, as I was saying, I had a guy who I worked with bought like the 1 in 1,000 variant cover of Star Wars #1 from 2015. He says, well, I put it in my fireproof safe. And I'm like,
oh, geez.
Oh, my God. You know what? But, the whole thing about collecting in general is doing stuff that makes you happy, and it may not have real value. But no, I would get the facsimile cover of the original, and I would put that on the wall because that's what. Sure. Oh, I see it now. I had to scroll further down. I see it. It's just ridiculous. But cool. Yes.
I mean, if they made a poster out of it, maybe that would be better.
Yeah, so one series is going to be Beachhead. He's one of the Ranger characters. Jinx is the Silent Weapons. One is about Spirit, who is the somewhat controversial Native American tracker character. And then, like you said, Roadblock, who's a heavy machine gunner, the least quiet guy. And then one about Duke. So I'm all about anything about Duke. So I will have to check this when we get done here and see if these are available.
I want you to like the white character, Charlie. That's so white of you.
Roadblock is my favorite. Hashtag Roadblock Lives Matter.
There you go.
No, but this was good. All right. What else we got here? More Screaming?
Scream 7. Yes. That series is coming back. I know there's a lot of controversy. Like one of the core 4, one oldest daughter was like pro Gaza and everything. Yeah. And apparently got hoisted away from that. Yeah. And then the original radio silence team that's production were not going to do the next Scream film, but the guy that was going to be brought in to do it walked away too. And then because what's her name, Jenna Ortega, is apparently too big now to be in these movies. She no longer is Peter over it. So they're basically like, what's going to happen to Scream now? Well, you got Kevin Williamson directing it. He was the original creator along with Wes Craven. So he's coming back. And then we've got one of the core 4 coming back, which is Jasmine Savoy. Remember, she's the geek sister or daughter of Randy, Randy's niece. Randy's niece, I think. Mindy. Yeah. She's the geeky one, with her brother. They're geeky. They know all the geeky stuff.
I just don't remember anything about those movies because they're so. It's like the Final Destination movies. It kind of slips. I know that Jenna Ortega wasn't Jenna Ortega, but one of the characters was the daughter of the killer guy from the Skeet Ulrich's character in the first one, and that was the 2
sisters were the 2 sisters, Jenna Ortega and
the canceled one. Yeah, exactly. So, but they finally hit, and it's, again, everything's a matter of money. So now they've got, and she was in one of the more recent ones, but they've got Nev Campbell back, and there's some great additional casting. We have a trophy husband, one of the most handsome men in the zeitgeist. Who is it, Todd?
Joel McHale, yes, he is Sydney's husband, Nev Campbell, who didn't return for the last film because apparently they wouldn't pay her what she was worth. So, but she is back now. Well, we've got Anna Camp in this, Isabella May, Celeste O'Connor, McKenna Grace, Sam Reckner, and so you always know that one of the new cast members will always be the killer. So it's like, who's it going to be?
Right, or
the last film
and die, yeah.
Well, I thought the last one was really cool because it was in New York. So you're basically not in you're not in a remote place. You're actually in the city. I thought that was kind of cool. They brought in one of the, what was his name? The 2 guys that looked the same.
The Sklar brothers. Sklar brothers.
No, Dulmit Mulrooney or Delmit.
Oh,
Delmit
I thought I was
Mulrooney.
Dolmet Mulrooney and golly, the other guy who was interchangeable. I thought you were talking
Derek
about the
Mulroney. I'm
Derek,
making up names.
Derek Jabroni. Well, it was in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was he was the one guy, and he ended up being. Well, I don't want to get anything away, but I've liked those two new movies because Jack Quaid was the killer in the first one,
right? Oh, Boimler, terrible. Yes. I have a prediction: they will deep fake Melissa Barrera's face, and she won't be able to do anything about it. She'll be the killer again, or subsequently. But so are these usually like fourth quarter releases? They come out for the
probably. Oh no, this is going to be a February 2026 film.
Oh, okay. So they're making this right now. Gotcha. So this is a little like a year, year and a year and a month from now. So good deal. Okay. We also have Free Comic Book Day is always the first Saturday in May. And I will admit, not having young kids, and Todd, your son has grown and he wasn't really into comics as much as my kids were for a little while. But you and I still love it. But we still tend to go out, right? Like you go to your favorite shop. They're having maybe they're having some deals and shit, so you want to support them. I don't really care about the comics. I just found a stack of the comics shoved under the side table in my bedroom. I'm like, these are from 3 years ago. I'm never going to read them. So I quit taking them because I know I'm not going to read them. Plus, they show up digitally anyway. But you go there to your shop, they're like 20% off, blah, blah, blah. And you pick something up, support local, which we always believe very strongly in. But we have some headway on what the issues are going to be. So what do we got?
So we've got the DC All-In Absolute Universe Free Comic Book Day 2025 edition. So DC's big with their Absolute line. All-In is basically a way to get everyone into those comics. So that's going to be the headliner, basically. And the one shot will probably be a good way to kind of get you up to speed with all those new characters. Then we're getting a Valiant Zombies Resurrection. I've always liked Valiant. I haven't always kept up with them. Yeah. We get, let's see what else. Critical Role, which is big for the kids, but also Black Hammer, which we read. They're getting a combo cover. So it's basically one side is one comic and then one side is the other. We're getting Gargoyles Demona. I like the fact that series is coming up. Lost Marvels with Somebody Fortune on the cover by Howard Chaykin. And then we're getting a Bad Kitty, which I loved that book when Logan was a little kid. Bad Kitty, Good Puppy. There's a Godzilla New Heroes comic. Then there's a bunch of like those comics where it's like a mix of their stuff. So IDW is having kind of like all of their comics in one. Keen Spot Toy Box edition. We're getting a Universal Monsters comic. We're getting some anime stuff. The Phantom is getting a new comic. Ooh. Then we get something for the kids. Spidey's Amazing Friends and Iron Man's Awesome Friends. Marvel Voices, Star Wars comic book, which is another Star Wars.
Oh, Mark Guggenheim. We're going to be talking to Mark Guggenheim coming up pretty soon, Todd, you and me.
All right.
Yeah.
And then we're getting a bunch of other like indie books that you may not have heard of. Flash Gordon has a kitty book, which is interesting. Hair Bear and the Kid is a favorite of myself and my wife. My wife actually took a art class from him. Mike Kunkel met him at C2E2, which was cool. And then let's see. I'm trying to think of anything else big. Hulk Teach is a book for kids. Just a Transformer comic, Mega Man comic, a Diablo comic, Street Fighter versus Rival Schools, a Def Leppard comic.
Yes. Ooh, Hysteria Zero.
Yeah, they get a Young Jedi's adventure, so Mark would probably be interested in that. A Power Rangers VR Trooper crossover book. Archie's. I wonder if our buddy Tom DeCarlo wrote a story in that.
Tom, you mean Tom DeFalco? I don't know a Tom DeCarlo.
DeFalco. There's a Tom DeCarlo too. Probably they're probably brothers. Brothers. Then we got Cats and Powerpuff Girls crossover. Speed Racer. Fantastic Four and X-Men combo book. There's an Amazing Spider-Man Ultimate Universe book.
So I lied. So Energon Universe classified.
Energon Universe.
That's Yeah, it's Clutch from G.I. Joe, who, so I lied. So I will be picking up some of these. But yeah, support local. And if you can't find your local comic shop, Free Comic Book Day does have a website with comic shop locator. But, if you listen to this show, whatever town you live in, you probably go somewhere. But, I know of the several shops we have in town back in the day, we would circulate around. And because each one
you know what,
is
Charlie,
very
what you can do with those Free Comic Book Day comics when you're done? If you got those little libraries around your neighborhood, take those comics, put them in the free library day. Because you know what? Kids will have something to read, and it's fun, and basically they find a new home.
They do. There's one of those just a couple doors down from me. So that's an excellent suggestion. I like it. Good
Along with
deal.
rat traps.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a little reach in there. That's the trick in the trick or treat. That's what I can start giving out on Halloween. Reach in and get a snap. Oh, very good. Well, that is it for the news. We are headed to Midtown to the new and improved Geek Easy. And we've got an Uber X pulling up. We've got the music playing, but as always, because it's Sirius XM and we're on Todd's favorite, the Yacht Rock station, they do have to be ad supported because it's just the world we live in. But it's funny, I still keep hearing this same ad, and it makes me want to do something about it. Well, how does that ad go again?
Hey, Secret Friends Unite, let me tell you about Zencastr. We use them for our show, and now they're supporting us. Zencastr is now the all-in-one solution making podcasting easy. It's the ultimate web-based podcasting solution. Provides high-quality audio and video podcast production and hosting. With a full suite of professional tools, podcasters can seamlessly record, produce, and publish studio-quality content, all from one dashboard. Being a creator has never been easier. And we chose Zencastr because of the ease of use, high quality output, and it makes it super easy for our guests to come on. We had multiple solutions we tried before, and Zencastr has just been the best fit for us. Why Zencastr? It's now super easy to record a podcast with Zencastr. Log in using your browser and start recording a high-quality podcast right away. Record studio-quality sounds and up to 4K video with your guests. Feel a sense of zen knowing Zencastr's multi-layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable. Have you ever worried what you sound like? Zencastr's post-production process makes you sound buttery smooth. It automatically removes those ums and ahs in your recording. It removes those awkward pauses in conversation too. Set the right podcast loudness and levels while reducing background noise with a click of a button. So if you're interested in making an easy, high-quality podcast just with the click of a browser button, go to zencastr.com/pricing and use my code SFU1. You'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. Now back to the show.
Talk nerdy to me. Talk nerdy to me.
We're sitting in the Geek Easy, cover band's playing, drinks are poured, and we are ready to get our nerd on. So I've been doing a little catch up because there's some shows coming back and some shows I wanted to watch, and I always like to have some new things in my back pocket to say, well, what am I going to watch? Because sometimes there's just too many choices, and I need to find something that I'm meaning to catch up on, and that is Severance. I watched the first episode and then said, I'll get back to that. Never did. So now I am... now I've watched 2 more episodes, so I'm up to 3.
Isn't it also, or wasn't it just you could like watch it on the Roku channel for free?
Apple TV Plus was free last weekend, I believe, and now it's back to pay. So because Severance season 2 is coming out, I believe it might already be out. But my goal was to watch Severance and then watch season 2.
Yes.
So season 1, I haven't watched all of it. Obviously, I'm only 3 episodes in. But it is a show that feels so different than so many shows because you've got a really strong cast. I didn't know Christopher Walken was in the show. He's in it, which is kind of fun.
What? My God. Christopher Walken.
Yeah. But it's the premise, obviously, everyone knows by now, it's all about this drug company that has essentially signed people up for this experiment. Well, it's not an experiment. It's basically a deal where essentially you are separated into your work life and your personal life. You show up at work, that person basically shows up, does all of the work, has no idea what's going on in the real life where there's something other to do than work. And then when that work person is done for the day, the person that is basically has a non-work life goes home and has their normal life.
I gotta tell you, that is the work-life balance I have always strived for. I learned very early on in my career, you set your personal shit aside, you work. When you leave, you pick your personal shit up and live your personal life. Now, this is literally a dream come true. I love this.
Oh, no, this is a hellish nightmare because then you realize the person at work is essentially a slave and they never get to do anything but work. And that it just feels like prison, entrapment, and So,
well, then I don't like it.
There is some dark things in this show that it's like, holy cow, where is this going? And what does it really mean? Right. And the aesthetic's interesting because sometimes it feels like it's got those really hardcore, like 70s, like tech vibes, and where you feel like things are very analog, like knobs and dials. And
it's like the Bridge of the Enterprise from the old show.
Kind of, where doesn't feel modern in a lot of ways. And just the way the people are. And it's very interesting. I really like the show. There's a development with one of the characters that was previously in the work group. There's something going on with that character you get to find out, and then there's a character that is also in both sides, but you don't really know if that character is living in both worlds or are truly severed as well, which is pretty cool.
Severed.
So I'm enjoying the show.
Severance.
Yes. And there's actually people that are anti against it. Basically, they call it indentured servitude, who are basically against it. So there's a little bit of you can see there's some I guess conflict in where this is going to go. Right. So, but Adam Scott is great in this.
Yes.
But it's a very dark show, but it has every once in a while, it has a little bit of humor, but this is one of those shows somebody will probably nominate as a comedy, and it's not a comedy, just like The Bear is not a comedy. There's comedic elements of it, but it's very sad and serious, more so than makes me laugh. So, I hate when people say that.
Because at the Bear, they have a big bear that crashes into the kitchen and eats everybody. That's not a life affirming story. That's why I didn't.
True. It's the mistake they celebrate every day when they realize we hired a bear. And we haven't fired the bear.
Exactly. And
who's going to fire the bear? I don't want to do it.
And he's going to take out his bonus by just eating a small kid. Oh, it's terrible. All right, what else you got?
Exactly. So Disenchanted. This is a show by Matt Groening. This is essentially his third show because he made The Simpsons, Futurama, and then Disenchanted is on Netflix.
Right.
So this series was dropped. I believe the series is over now. But it's a show I said I didn't really give much of a chance. It's not like it's so different than Futurama or The Simpsons because I feel like this is more like a show with an arc and where it's going, and tells more like ongoing storylines versus The Simpsons, which is just one-offs. Right. And I feel like this has a place where it's going. It does have some dramatic elements. Has comedy, of course, and it's ridiculous, and it has some goofy people in it. A lot of the same voice cast, but some new voice cast that's brought back. But there are elements which are just sad and just really, interesting. But it's dealing it in a fantastical realm. I do appreciate what they're going for. And Futurama, in a lot of senses, did some things like that, where they took things that happened in past episodes, brought it back up. There's the episode of with Fry, with the dog that he had, who kept on when Fry disappeared. It's such a sad moment.
I watched one of these Watch Mojo videos today, saddest moments in TV shows. That was number one.
Yep.
That was number one.
Absolutely.
It was a heartbreaker.
Absolutely. Because it's based on that real story of that guy in Japan who his dog, he passed away and his dog kept on going to the subway station every day. And this is it's that similar story that Futurama did. So I'm like, that's true,
It's terrible.
But I am enjoying it quite a bit. I like it. And, but it is not, I wouldn't say that there are like recurring jokes, recurring characters, but I would not say it's like the same thing as The Simpsons and Futurama with the amount of jokes and catchphrases, but I still like it. I'm glad I'm on season 2 now. I'm glad I'm watching. It's my show at night that I watch. So yeah.
I love it. Good deal. Awesome. Well, I already teased that I'm enjoying the Image Skybound Energon Universe G.I. Joe. It just launched a couple 3 months ago. It was preceded by an ongoing series that Larry Hama is continuing to do that picks up from, he had his Marvel series. It ended in 1994. There was a break. He ended up coming back and doing another 150 issues where he kept the storyline going, and those were so hard to find, and 150 issues is an insurmountable number to try to catch up on when you're like, I gotta find them all, but they're not online, so I gotta find print copies. So I gave up. So I, much like probably other readers out there, wanted to start fresh with these characters, wanted to start fresh with, a universe I feel like I could get my arms around. And the Energon universe really pulled that off. We had those 4 great miniseries last year. There's a Transformer series, Todd. I assume you're still reading it. There was the Void Tribals, which I read. I did a Todd on that when I read the first issue and never went back to it. But this I absolutely love because they've set it up with a couple of key new characters. They made a big switch. The Baroness is part of the G.I. Joe team. Scarlet is on the Cobra team. They have a character named Risk, who is on the G.I. Joe team, who literally, as the 3rd issue starts, is having a bloody fist fight with Duke. Like, they're really, it's not the get along.
Oh, good.
G.I. Joe team.
Is it Risk spelled RISQ?
No, that's Risque. No, it's Risk spelled like the board game.
Well, QUE is Risque, right?
Yes, exactly. Like Siskiyou, the singer from the early 2000s. But yeah, I'm loving on this series, and based on the fact that we're having these 5 one-shots that are coming out a couple of months from now, this is the only non-Marvel title. Like, I'm not a huge DC guy. I love Marvel. I have dabbled from time to time and stuff outside of that, but this is something I could really sink my teeth into. And while Marvel did a great job with it, obviously back in the day, it is nice to see another creative element in a different group of people kind of driving the boat on this one. So I love it, Todd. I'd recommend it. Obviously, that's on my Comixology, but it'll probably be a trade at some point you can snag and read. But I would recommend it.
I do buy those books with my Amazon like free credits.
Yeah,
so that's where I typically buy my comics through, so it makes it less painful. But I think what the great thing about this plus Transformers books is they are appreciating nostalgia, but they're not putting actually good writing behind it and good illustration where, like, I'm sure you can point to the old G.I. Joe comics as being a little, at time, kind of clunky, trying to balance a Toy Story plus a book. Yeah.
I mean, Larry did a great job, and I would say the first 100 issues of 155 of keeping it as grounded as he could. But when the toy line drove it in the direction of the Eco Warriors and the Sky Marshals and the Space Force, which I don't think it was called Space Force, but now we have a Space Force, and weird aliens and shit, it was just like it was time to pack it in. And I just think it kind of in some ways continued on that trajectory, not to be putting his work down, because those original...
Was Larry pissed off that they didn't let him write the Nom?
He did write the Nom. That was his.
Oh, he did write the Nom?
That's his theory.
So it's like they canceled the Nom. I'm bringing the Nom to toys.
Oh my God. Well, they only really cancel series when people don't buy it. So yeah, it was one of those don't get pissed off.
Kids love the Nom.
Exactly. Yeah, you can show this comic to your dad and watch him have a flashback. It's just that's
exactly because dads love comic books about horrible events in their past.
Their own life. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The scourge of a generation. But anyway, those are available on Kindle. The trade paperback of the miniseries is out there. Visit your local comic shop. Show them some love if you're a brick and mortar paper comic book reader. But you can pick this up. Obviously, they come out monthly. But again, Todd and I are more digital readers just because it's easier to do it on the go, and that's our scene. Todd, there's a new miniseries out on the Cock, as you called it, Peacock. Sorry, I prefer Peacock. It's less racy. But it's about Saturday Night Live is hitting the big 5-0, just like you are, Todd. I did find out they're having a 3-hour live special on February 16th to celebrate the 50th. They did it for the 40th as well, as I recall.
Come on, Chevy Chase, come on back.
Yeah, let's see Chevy
incident.
Chase do something. Yeah, to start an incident where he starts a fist fight with Bill
all the
Murray or
ones that
something.
were fired by dropping F-bombs. Bring those back too.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, Peacock, to ramp up, has a 4-part, an hour long each portion, a documentary called Beyond Saturday Night. And I'm like, well, I remember that Saturday Night movie that came out, which was about the production of the first episode. It was dramatization. This is just bringing people back. And one whole episode is people talk about their experiences, but also seeing their audition reels. Some truly surreal stuff. A lot of the people have aged really poorly. Like Joe, they brought back Joe Piscopo. He looks like he's 100. He looks like a leathery sack. And I hate to say it.
Well, he kind of looked like he was big into like working out, and then he got tanned, and
yeah,
that lifestyle never looks bad, never looks great after you kind of walk away from it.
Nassim Petarad, who was in part of the early 2000s cast, has gone full Fright Night with her face, that's really unfortunate.
Well, she was in New Girl. She's been in a few other things too.
Yeah,
so.
But if you Google her, it does not.
That's okay. Yeah.
It was weird, and it took me a minute. But yeah, they had cast from old to new. Obviously, like you said, Chevy Chase and Bill Murray, they don't snag people like that, or Danny Aykroyd. They had a whole episode about the cowbell sketch, and you would think, oh, well, that's a one trick, but it is widely renowned to be the greatest of all SNL sketches. It's the most well-known. So it was really funny to watch the genesis of this, but a lot of these, it was funny. It was like Bobby Moynihan watching his audition tape. I love that he's watching it. He just goes, oh, Bobby, no, no.
Did they bring back Horatio Sands, who now is apparently he's full of controversy?
Oh, I don't know anything about that. We'll have to talk off book. But anyway, 4 episodes. It was weird because we were watching it, and Peacock will usually jump you to the next one, but they didn't do that after the second one. So I thought, oh, this must come out every week. But then I jumped over to YouTube, and it said things we learned from whatever. And I started watching it and recognized there were clips in there I didn't know. So then I jumped back. We watched the other 2. So anyway, that's available on Peacock now. If you're a fan of SNL, I would highly recommend it. So to wrap up, Todd's second least favorite Star Trek series. No, it's his least favorite. I'm sorry. I was thinking about what my least favorite is.
There another one?
No, I was thinking of the fact that you and I were talking about Star Trek Discovery earlier today, and that's my least favorite. But Todd loathes Star Trek Voyager. It's a very controversial take because I know a lot of people who really love it. But as of this past week, January 16th, the show turned 30. I remember watching it on that day. It was a Monday, I think, because it was a Monday show, if I'm remembering correctly. And I was so totally caught up in everything related to Star Trek. We had TNG ended, and that really kind of lukewarm Generations movie came out. And then DS9 was still on. And then we had this. So I sat down to watch it that night. It was the same night I watched a streamer of the Section 31 TV movie, which is coming out later this week, which obviously I'm not allowed to talk about, but please feel free to tune in. Paramount Plus, Friday the 24th, to watch that. But yeah, I watched Caretaker, which was the feature length first episode of Voyager, and the question is, does it hold up? It does definitely have elements of Star Trek of that time. Some of the kind of the design elements are the same, the special effects are the same, but it did, I think, have some core emotional great moments just getting to know Janeway as a character. The impossible decision, prime directive, taking care of this person and that person and leave no man behind. But you can always really tell those shows versus like what you see now in Discovery or Strange New Worlds or other shows that they filmed it on a set. Maybe they got one day where they could drive out to the desert and shoot a background of some mountains, but otherwise it was all on the same 5 sound stages they had. But we loved it. We loved it. The member berries help a lot with that, with us hardcore people. So I would say, if you hate the show, you hate the show. But if you enjoyed the show, I still think it was a great kickoff to the series, and it had a great speech at the end that Janeway made, and then they flew off into the sunset. So I'm gonna say it holds up. It's available on Paramount Plus. So I would say decide for yourself. So Todd,
I would say Star Trek Voyager, the prequels for me. Voyager's better. but still kind of that there's a lot of people that literally have like the secondary, like Voyager's the best thing of all time. So there's some people that like get to that point. And I mean, I totally really respect the fact that what Kate Mulgrew did to bring a female captain to the screen. I thought she was great.
Yeah.
I think she was let down by some really subpar characters. And also some storylines and plots. And it's like, she never got her great, like, nemesis. It felt like it borrowed so much from the other series that never had a chance to really claim its own, especially when they're in this unknown space. And it's like, they could have done so much with so many crazy things, but they got the Rock.
Yeah, they did. And again, let's not forget they were the flagship program of a burgeoning network trying to survive. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that did put the onus on like having the Rock on there because he's a big star in WWF.
Was it part of SmackDown at the time? UPN show SmackDown or something?
I think so. It would have been in probably 1990, the year 2000. I think was when the Rock.
They never had a crossover with Homeboys from Outer Space, Charlie.
It's a shame. Didn't James Doohan, Scotty, guest on that show?
Yes, he was their engineer on their ship.
That would have been one of the last things he did. He did that, and then he quit the business, and then he a number of years later he passed away. But anyway, I love it. Groundbreaking. Kate Mulgrew, I've seen her speak a couple of times at cons. She's a wonderful actor and a wonderful person. So, tune on in. But anyway, that's it for the Geek Easy. I have my phone out. The Air Qantas app is going to get us our business class tickets, third class steerage tickets down to the land down under where Hologram Tina and the mutants await to hear us talk about Wolf, Man. Let's do it.
Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome.
Thank you, Tina. The mutants been gathered for a topic or a game to be entertained. And this week we are discussing, with spoilers, WolfMan, not the WolfMan, not Wolf, Man. This is a film from Blumhouse, producer of The Black Phone and the director of The Invisible Man, Leigh Whannell. This movie came out on January 17th. Leigh Whannell wrote, directed, produced by Blumhouse, starring Julia Garner, Christopher Abbott, Sam Yeager, Matilda Firth, and then other people, because there's nobody else I know.
Yeah,
the rest.
And probably why you get a lot of other people who don't know, this was like filmed in New Zealand, so it's not like it'd be like, oh, and we got so and so. It's not like when they film something in Atlanta and there's a whole community of people that live there that are or Vancouver, LA, obviously. But yeah, when they film it in
places can look like Oregon.
It's probably not that. You just turn the camera upside down because it's the land down under, so you got to turn the camera upside down.
It's upside down. Yeah. So this movie was 103 minutes, so kind of a tight movie. Yep. Made for $25 million, so small budget, which is great. The premise is a family man, Blake, relocates from San Francisco to Oregon with his workaholic wife, Charlotte, and daughter, Ginger, after inheriting his childhood home, left vacant following his estranged father's mysterious disappearance and presumed death. At the farmhouse at night during a full moon, the family is attacked by a werewolf that claws Blake's arm. They barricade themselves inside the home, but soon Blake's begins to transform into something horrifying, just jeopardizing the safety of his wife and daughter. Wow.
Yeah.
This movie, this is a very simple movie.
Yeah,
I mean, it is what it is. And it's not building like a world. It is very simple. It actually starts off 30 years in the past with our main character.
Well, we get
Blake.
we get a nice title card kind of setting the scene. So rural Oregon, there was a story, back in 1995 of a man who disappeared with a sickness of some kind. But the indigenous people who inherited who inhabited the land generations prior called it the face of the wolf. The translation was. And so, yeah, you're absolutely right. We get this young boy who lives alone with his dad. We don't know his mother is dead or gone or whatever. It's just the two of them in this house. And this kid seems very high strung. He gets up and he makes his bed with hospital corners because that's obviously what you got to do. And his dad, it was like, oh, that guy's so familiar. He was a character in The Handmaid's Tale, which is one of my wife's favorite shows. So I'm like,
Yeager.
yeah, he was the U.S. ambassador guy in Handmaid's Tale who helps out Elizabeth Moss's character. So his dad is taking him out for a hunting trip. So they're in the woods by the river, and there's weird stuff, weird noises, and they get separated. And the little boy, who has his own high-powered rifle, but I guess hey, you know what? I took gun safety when I was a kid. My dad's a big shotgun,
I did as well. I went hunting with my dad when I was, junior high.
This kid was not it was maybe a little young for a high-powered rifle. But anyway, he was very responsible with it. But he's looking through his scope, and he's hearing creaks and cracks, and then he sees what looks like a moss-covered man in the distance, or a moss-covered figure, and then he looks back, it's not there. So the tension is absolutely rising for us in the audience.
Yes.
So his dad finds him, but his dad's getting the vibe that we're being stalked. So he turns there's a deer blind and not that far in the distance. They race up in it, and they get in and close the door and hunker down, and they're hearing growls and scratches, and they're looking over the top of it, and they see hot breath is going in the air. They hear a big scritch, and then the thing runs off.
Because we hear a deer bray.
You're right.
And so, basically distracts, because it distracts. Actually, it's kind of funny because you see the mist or the steam of his breath.
Yeah.
And then he thinks he's in front. And then you turn around the camera, you look at them, and then you see that same steam come up behind them. You're like, oh, crap, they're going to come over there. And that's when they jet away. So it was very good building of suspense.
Very much so.
We don't know what this thing is. We just know it's scary.
Yep.
And fast.
Exactly. Exactly. So, so they end up back at home, and the dad is in his little basement lair speaking on the CB radio, and he's kind of outlining that, that creature is in the woods, and I'm not going to let it get my boy. And then he turns around, the boy standing behind him, and then the kid runs off to bed. And that's the end
talking
of the
to another person. And this is where they're living. It's Oregon, but obviously it's filmed somewhere else. But it is remote. I mean, this is like where my grandmother in Minnesota grew up, and where she lived on a dirt road in the middle of nowhere. You look in her backyard, and it's just God's country. Yep. Bear would come to her door. Her dog would attack porcupines and get things. So I mean, we're talking like nobody around for miles, and your neighbor is a country run. So he's talking to the neighbor, basically saying, "I saw the thing, and we're gonna go get it because you got to protect your boy too." So
exactly.
And he must have been in the Marine Corps because he had a tattoo.
With his
had his last name,
it,
Levinson. Yeah.
Love it.
So he was not a nice guy. Very, very strict. Basically, his son said, "Yes, sir." Well, like you said, he squared his corner. So this is a very strict household. And his dad's like, life is so, uneasy, and I could lose you in a second. So something happened. The mother must have died, and the dad feels guilt about it, and has hunkered down on protect and basically make your kid feel like crap along the way.
And based on that, we jump forward to present day, where Blake is grown. He lives in San Francisco. He's walking with his tween-age daughter, and they're chit-chatting. And he gets home that day, and he's making his daughter a snack. And his wife walks in, and she's talking on her phone. She's a journalist, and she's like, blah, 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 blah. And you can just tell she's super self-absorbed in her career stuff, as was mentioned. But she hands him the mail, and he opens it, and it's a piece of paper that says, your father has been legally declared dead, because he hadn't spoken to his father in a number of years, but his dad disappeared, and he never turned up again. And so Blake says, well, I need to go out there and clean the place out. Why don't we? It was weird. April pointed this out. He says, it was kind of weird that he says, I need to go clean the place out. Let's go. Let's the three of us go up there for the summer. But they're just driving in a rental truck without another vehicle. So, but that ends up being necessary for
you
the
don't
plot.
chill out in a rental truck, and maybe that was the original premise. And then she's like, "No, we're not staying up there the whole summer."
Yeah, you're right.
Obviously, there is no signal there. It's remote. Yeah.
Right. So anyway, while he's driving up there, they're up there in the wood. He gets kind of turned around, and when he stops next to a deer blind, a guy comes down, and it's a childhood friend of his. And he's like, "Well, you haven't been around in a long time." And he says, "Yeah, I can't find my way to my dad's place. Can you help me out?" And he jumps in the car, and it's making his wife and daughter very nervous because this guy's kind of a hilljack with a high-powered rifle, and they're like,
"Well, you feel like he doesn't talk to many people. Right. Out there on his own."
Yeah.
Awkward.
Yeah, exactly. So they're driving for a little while, and all of a sudden there's a brown figure of a man in the middle of the road, and Blake jerks the wheel to avoid hitting it, and they fly into the woods in this truck, and it jams on the side into a tree.
Charlie, pro tip, unless your vehicle is smaller than the thing you're gonna hit,
just hit
the
it.
damn thing.
Yeah,
because what always happens, you run off the road, you hit into a tree, somebody dies.
It's like
hit the damn thing.
Well, it's like they say with the deer, right? You just got to keep going, because if you jerk, then the deer's going to flip out, and it'll be like Tommy
might
Boy.
Go the same direction you're going.
Exactly.
The deer may just go, and and quite honestly, often they go over your vehicle. So
right. Don't put it in your trunk.
My sister once did that with a squirrel, Charlie, driving. Basically, I saw her leave the house. My dad just got this truck. Like he's always wanted a truck. She starts driving, gets no further than like 30 yards from her house. I see her and I hear this, and then she pulls over. The truck then goes into the ditch. And
oh my God.
That's the end of the truck. And it was a squirrel or something. I'm like,
squirrels are a dime. Yeah. Did you just make the face?
Truck.
Yeah. Dime a dozen. But anyway, so they're stuck in the tree. The childhood friend opens his door and falls out and dumps onto the ground.
Bad idea. Yeah.
I know.
If you don't know where you are dimensionally, you didn't have to do that.
You would just figure this guy would be a little smarter about things, but he falls out and he's laying on the ground. And our guy looks in the side mirror and he sees a creature crawling towards him. And while he's reaching for the door to shut it, the thing scratches him. But he manages to get the door closed. And as he looks, the friend is all sliced up on the ground.
Can I ask a question?
I don't know you're going to get an answer, but let's do it.
So I never understood this with werewolves. Like vampires, they suck your blood. Yeah, and that like exchange of secretion obviously is what turns you into a vampire, or something. A werewolf, though, just scratching you, what is in their claws? What is in their claws does it?
It's just goobers. I don't know.
Is there saliva in their claws? What is it?
They spend a lot of time licking their fingers. It's a nervous habit.
Oh, it's licking the butt, which does it because dogs sniff their butts, lick their butts.
Maybe they have a nervous nail chewing habit. They're like nah, 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 and then scratch you. So that's the saliva.
I just like it's like just getting them the tiniest of scratch and that's it. I'm like that's dangerous.
It really was. It's
maybe you're a friendly werewolf and you just like, ooh, sorry, I scratched you, my friend.
Yeah, but by then it's too late. So our guys, managed to get on top of the vehicle and avoid the wolf guy, and then it's a mad dash. They run off into the woods, and by happenstance, they come upon what he recognizes as his childhood home, which is obviously it's dark, nobody lives there, but that was their destination. So they managed to get inside. They can sense that this creature is following them, but they manage to get inside and lock the door. But it's banging on the door, and it finds them. But they're safe, but there's no power. But they do manage to get the generator started. But the scratch on Blake's arm is bleeding a little bit more, and he's starting to just not look so good. But his daughter's terrified, so he puts her down to sleep, and they're like, when the day comes, we'll run off into it. But you know what? The wolf thing, as we've already seen, is not nocturnal. So how's it going to be any safer in the daytime? And they see.
Well, if it's supposed to be like, because that's like the whole thing with the werewolf like premises. The cycle of the moon, the werewolf, you versus if it's truly a curse or it's a biological like disease. I don't know if the cycle of the moon would have changed anything.
I don't think so.
Are they great? Yeah. Maybe their eyes are so sensitive to the light.
They hibernate. It could be.
They can't be out there because when that's one of the things we start seeing is when our main character starts turning, he starts seeing things in a different light. He hears things differently, and so maybe that's the thing. Like they have to go in darkness because they have to be in the bright light. Yeah,
they can only. Yeah. But yet that being said, we know that there is a wolf guy out back in the flashback sequence in the beginning. But it was overcast. I don't know. There wasn't bright sunshine. But anyway, so Blake is in the house, and his wife is sleeping. The daughter is sleeping. He starts hearing this loud scratching, and he's walking around all around the house trying to figure out what's going on. And he opens a closet door, and it's a big tarantula crawling on the wall. But
it's a very common Oregonian tarantula.
Everybody knows that. But obviously the point behind it is that he's now got hypersensitive hearing, like something is changing. And like you said, he's starting to lose his ability to understand language and to speak. Because you see a lot of POV stuff where when he's looking at, I keep wanting to say Ruth because the actress playing his wife was Ruth in Ozark. That's all, and she's going to be
Charlotte.
And he's looking at her, and she's got like they do it with the daughter as well. Their faces get all contorted. They have bright running eyes. And they're like, it sounds like the Twin Peaks backwards talking card thing, like, and he does the same thing when Charlotte brings him a pad of paper and says, write down what's wrong. And he just writes dying. So he knows he's not long for this world. His teeth are falling out. When he looks at the wound on his arm, he does, how when you take your dog to the vet and they do something, they put that cone around his head.
Yes. He needed a cone because he did something in this. I'm like, oh, that's gross.
I looked over to April and she was like, ugh, because he starts gnawing on his arm and it's like, oh God.
Well, because he starts scratching at it like a dog would if you got a wound and like you're just going to try to clean it or whatever. And he goes and he starts chewing on it. But then she basically, he looks at her and he sees in her eyes how kind of freaked out she is. Yeah. And then all of a sudden he just stops and, he stands up and then just walks past her. And I'm like, I don't know if I saw that.
Yeah.
How just like, okay, daddy's having an issue.
And, his teeth are falling out. His hair's falling out. Like,
I've had to tear a hangnail off on my hand. And that's got off, and that's gross enough,
Yeah, exactly. You're not gnawing on your damn wrist. So we get to the point where they're skulking around the house where at one point Blake is standing in front of the back door where there's conveniently a doggy door that the werewolf reaches his hand through and scratches him up some more. And I think maybe he gets more infected at that point because it's when his transformation.
Well, he tries to grab his leg and pull him through. And and it's essentially a standoff because this creature's still out there. At one point they see, she's looking out the window and she sees, oh, there's a truck.
Right.
So and she was smart though, particularly she was pretty smart because she realized that truck's been out there a long time. She finds a battery charger, basically a battery jumper. And then she takes all of them with them to the car. Now, Charlie, I don't know if you're like me. When I looked at that truck and I saw all the windows, they're disgusting. Covered in filth. And I'm like, how the hell is she going to see through that?
Yeah, it's been sitting there for a decade.
Just caked on filth, so you're not going to even be able to see through the windows, of course.
And it was very suspenseful. Obviously, Dad is pretty incapacitated, but the daughter's there. She's flipping out. But Ruth is out in the front charging, but then she keeps running back and forth. And it's just like anytime she's going to turn around, like she has the door open.
They're building up the tension.
But she gets it started, turns the lights on, and I think she does a flick of the windshield wipers, and there's the goddamn werewolf. Bashes through the window.
And he breaks through, tears off
the shifter.
Tears off. Yeah, exactly. So like, oh, we're screwed because we can't.
Yeah.
She tries to like pitch it, but I mean,
Yeah.
there's nothing you can do.
Right.
So yeah, it's a crap fest, of course.
They run into the barn, but the werewolf digs under the.
The barn's late. They go on top of the
grow room,
cheapest garden room where it's like just like a tarp of like thick plastic where they climb on top of it
with regular staples. And
let's just put this. That's a white trash gardening center nursery.
That was his. He was growing weed. I'm absolutely certain of it.
Probably, yeah.
And he was, so the werewolf runs in there and he's scratching things up, so they fall and they make their way back into the house. But we're getting to the point where it's going to be too late for Blake. He's finally starting.
He's doing bad.
Yeah, he's finally starting to fall off, and he goes, like you said, he does the arm gnawing thing, and then he's like, now I'm going to leave. So he goes to the back door that also has the iron gate. And when he opens it up, boom, there's the werewolf. It jumps on him. And this is the showdown. They're struggling. They're going back and forth. Finally,
Charlotte tries to help him with a knife.
Right.
Yep.
And she
stabs him.
She finally does stab the werewolf down, and he's dead, but his left arm falls to his side, and Blake is able to see his dad's tattoo on the werewolf's arm. So it is his father.
Because he finally kills him. He gnaws his throat out. He's
that's
dead.
Right. He tore him to death, but then he found out that's my dad. And he was able to even in the States still understand that.
Yeah, because at this point, Blake has not harmed his family.
Right.
He is holding on the best he can, but he is getting very feral. He's he's sitting on the couch to his daughter. His daughter, they had a thing in this film where basically he would put his hand on his daughter and so you can read minds, or she would put her hand on his head so you can read minds, and she said, yes, your daddy loves you and you're the best girl in the world. So she tries to do that again because she understands daddy ain't right, and this is bad. So she tries to do that to basically bring him down, which kind of works. But at this point, you get the bad part where it's like he cannot understand them. They cannot understand him. And you just know that something's going to have to give.
Right. And it does. So he finally snaps. He's chasing him around the house. And then Charlotte takes the daughter, and they're back running in the woods. And they finally come upon...
no. They go to the barn first, Charlie.
Oh, then they do the barn bit. I'm sorry. Yeah, they do the barn. Yeah. Oh, now I remember. They do the barn.
Charlotte makes a little Home Alone experience.
Yeah, she does. She's able to snag Blake in a bear trap, and that helps him escape. Well, what does Blake do? He does the very classic Coyote Ugly of gnawing off his own own foot to escape.
Yes.
So now he's chasing them on a hobbled foot, but he's doing it on all fours. So he's running like a dog, and they're off.
Starts going pretty fast with only one good leg.
He's doing okay. So they're into the woods, and they come upon the dismembered remains of the childhood buddy that fell out of the truck because they find the truck. Well, the buddy also had a high-powered rifle. So now Charlotte has a gun, and lo and behold, she comes upon what I would assume is the exact same deer stand.
It's got to be the deer stand. Yeah, the same one. Yeah.
She climbs up in there, and it's a repeat of the previous scene that they're waiting there, and obviously Blake is cut up, and he starts climbing up, and he's up there staring at them, and Charlotte's pointing the gun, and it's just they're just staring at each other's eyes. It's very intense. And the daughter,
she doesn't want to do anything. He's just standing there.
And the daughter's like, I think he just wants it to be over now.
Daddy wants this over with, which I'm so glad that happened because, at this point, the kid has been having a rough relationship with her mother anyways, where she's got a stronger relationship with her dad because mom works and he's in between jobs. So basically he's the caretaker. Yeah. So at this point, she's realizing though, because of their strong relationship, that this isn't like my daddy. He's hurt. and I need to let him go. So I thought that was very mature of them to let the child actually let it happen.
Yeah, exactly. So, Blake does lunge at them, and you see Ruth obviously
to make her finally make a decision, because she was not going to do it.
And she shoots him in the chest, so he falls backwards, and he's dying. But then you see, he has this very peaceful visage where he's staring up at the trees, and so he's gone. And we missed a line earlier on, back when they were in San Francisco. Blake said, there's this one spot as you walk out, into the woods by the river, that when you're staring in this visage, you just think that everything is right in the world. It's perfect. And that's the shot they end the movie on. You see
Exactly.
the mother and the daughter staring at this beautiful visage, which is actually, New Zealand. But it's, supposed to be rural Oregon. So, 103 minutes is a great length for a movie. It was, you were right to your point. It was not overly complicated. They didn't try to layer you down with
there's no gypsy curse. There's no you see him transform and he stalks people. And it happened very fast. Like when he lose teeth, and you saw him like his fingernails popped out.
Yeah.
And this is a very practical budget. You did not see. I don't think there was any CGI as far as I saw. I
mean, there could have been a little nip and tuck here and there, but even the transforming part. He cracked his jaw, and you saw his claws grow out of his fingernails, but it pushed his fingernails loose. So it was very.
Thank God they cast a really hairy guy, so they didn't have to put fur on him.
Exactly. I did read, because I was reading the IMDb notes as I always do, that Lee Winnell said he was inspired by what I always thought was the creepiest body horror transformation that I saw when I was a kid in all practical effects, which was David Cronenberg's The Fly in 1986 with Jeff Goldblum.
That's gross. Yeah, fingernails popping off.
Well, and then when he finally transforms, he just splits in half. And it's just like, this wasn't quite to that level, but I saw that movie when I was, this was proof that we're kids of the 80s. And, I was a latchkey kid. This is kind of shit that I was watching when I was 10, because I'm doing my math homework, and I'm like, my brother's watching The Fly. So I'm like, stick my head around the corner. I'm like, oh my God.
Yep. Or I'm over at my kids, my friend Sean Crosby's house. His mom's working. Oh, we're going to rent Evil Dead 2. Okay. Sounds like a good plan.
Good call. That's good. Not at all.
We could just walk to the video store, ride bikes or walk to the video store, get it. Yeah. They didn't check IDs. It was like the local neighborhood video store that at one point, I think my friend's family owned. Yeah.
Oh, God. Okay.
The Video Hut. The Video Hut. Not the Butt Hut, the Video Hut.
Butt Hut's not in Indiana. We know that. But that's the end of it. So really tight. And no, there's no fanfare. It's not like, wait around for the spoiler where he opens his eyes and he's alive. You know what I mean? But
no, and there's no intention that we felt like there's going to be. It was someone got scratched or something's left behind. So we'll deal with that.
There was no intention to have this be anything but a nice little self-contained story, which is really what it turned out to be.
And when werewolves die in this, they don't all of a sudden all their fur goes away and they look normal. Yeah. Nope, they are who they are.
Yep, that's the transformation is pretty final. So that's nice. It's nice that they made this feel kind of as real as you feel like it would be, because it's not, there wasn't a lot of fantastical elements to it besides the transformation part. It was almost, he got a sickness and it transformed him into something, but he didn't grow 8 legs or something, or it wasn't like, John Carpenter's The Thing where you turn it, the head has feet or something. You know what I mean?
Well, it did make me very excited to make sure you have your rabies shots.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And when you get scratched by a werewolf that has a nervous, nail biting scenario.
I mean, I've been scratched by my dog and nothing's happened, but it doesn't mean it couldn't.
Yeah, exactly. So, So where do we land with this movie as far as how did it do this weekend? Theater we were in we had a lot of people and we saw it Friday night.
Good question. Let me look it up really quick. Because at this point, no, I don't care about that. Let's see. Do they have any previews? So at this point, WolfMan, latest dailies, WolfMan looks to have made $12 million. So that's not bad.
Well,
And a $25 million budget.
Yeah, so
I mean,
they're
you
looking
make
to
half
hit,
your budget up in one weekend.
yeah,
And
they're
this will
looking,
have legs because I think the word of mouth is pretty strong on this one.
yeah, I mean, they're looking to hit maybe between 50 and 75, and then they're in the black as far as having it be profitable. And it's a foreign film, so maybe it's going to also do well overseas. So we'll find out.
Well, the last Wolfman film we had was the Benicio del Toro one.
I still haven't seen that one. I think I got to watch it.
I haven't either, and I'm like, okay.
No, maybe, you know what? Maybe I'll go up and maybe that's what April and I will watch when I get done here. But all right, well, let's wrap it up. 1 out of 10, let's see, wolf nails, what we say, or severed heads, or
wolf claws.
Wolf claws. What are you giving this 1 out of 10?
I'm giving it 8 out of 10. I liked it. I thought the acting was good. Although the one thing that pulled me out, I don't know what it is with the mother, Charlie. I know she's not that young, but Julia Garner looked like she was 19 in this film. So when I see that she has an 8-year-old daughter, I'm like, she just looks way too young.
It was weird because she was in the first thing I ever saw her in was The Americans, and that was 10 years ago. And she was playing a late teenaged character. So she's got to be early 30s.
She's 29. I looked and she's 29 because I'm like, but she look when I in this, I'm
She's
like,
very,
she
very
looks like
young
she could have been the girl's older sister.
Absolutely.
It just pulled me out that I don't think she has an 8-year-old daughter.
Right. Well, the character would have had a child when she was 21 or whatever, and that kind of thing happens.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm going to swing with, besides the, ridiculousness of like, they were driving the truck that flew into a tree. I was, this is a solid 9 for me. This is one of the better films of this type that I've seen. It's tight production. It's not fancy. They're not shooting for the moon, no pun intended, of doing anything world building like, we got to turn this in. This is part of the Dark Monsters franchise or whatever. And they're not doing that, even though it is Universal. And
we live in a world now we know, in this world, we know that this thing exists and maybe other people have experienced it. Because I was like, well, if they're going to turn this into a franchise, is it that maybe he gets cured or he finds a way to like overcome it through the power of love?
They're also not trying to be like, that wolf was part of a wolf community where there's a bunch of, they're not doing any of that shit, which I appreciate. It was a one and done kind of story that it was layered in a lot of, love of family and different relationships and good performances. So yeah, I was very impressed. So I would say go out and see this, but you just listened to a spoiler cast about it for half an hour. So I would assume that you don't mind. But yeah, I would, go out and support this film. Like I said, it's the second movie I've seen this year. The first one was that Den of Thieves 2, which is super missable. You heard me talk about it last week. But yeah, this is fun stuff. Any final thoughts before we wrap her up?
Well, I was thinking about that in the future, Charlie. Maybe when we do a spoiler, we kind of just give our spoiler-free elements of it and our score, and then people can find out the rest. Because I see that a lot of other podcasts do that. So maybe we should do that because at least at that point we can recommend the movie, and then we can say or don't, and we can say why.
We will do that with our next one, which is Companion, in a couple of weeks.
Oh, that would be interesting to see if it gets pulled out. So I'm curious.
Okay.
I will be curious. And if anybody else is curious, listen to our podcast. We'll make sure we don't spoil it, but we will let you know kind of when we're going to score on it.
Yeah, they do it. Yeah, they do spoiler free. They do best movie ever, worst movie ever.
Yeah, a lot of those do it. Yeah.
So, well, good deal. All right. Well, that's the show. Todd, where do people find you out there?
Primarily because of the Zuck being a thing. I'm kind of probably primarily going to stay on Blue Skies at this point. That's where I'm at. And because of that, you can follow me on the Blue Skies at Todd Oxtra, at Secret Friends Unite, no dots. And then on our Discord, check out our Patreon, rate our podcasts, and check out our video podcasts. They're fun. You get to see our faces and our backgrounds, and maybe a ghost will show up.
Ooh, yes. I'm not fond of Zuckerberg either, but I am constrained by being on the unholy trifecta, which is Threads and Instagram. Oh, excuse me, it's not a trifecta because I don't talk about Facebook. I am on Threads, I'm on Instagram, and then also Blue Sky is at the C3 THE.
Charlie ever leaves Facebook Messenger, he's had it with Zuckerberg.
I'm dead. But anyway, as I was saying, it's THECEETHREE. And again, the Discord is where it's at. We do still have a Facebook page for Secret Friends, but the Discord is where the fun chats are happening. I also run a Discord based around Star Trek called United Trekkers of Michigan. Don't have to be in Michigan to be a part. We just like talking about Star Trek. And with that, friends, as always, thank you for joining us. I'll tell you that sharing is caring, and to keep on trucking.
Be the hero, not the villain.
In a truck.
Ow!
Werewolves of London.
Oregon, places unknown.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and podcast services around the galaxy, as well as video on our YouTube channel. You can support Secret Friends Unite by becoming a Patreon member, get bonus programs and more over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Join our Discord community for even more discussions on all things geek. For all the latest updates on Secret Friends Unite, make sure to follow us on Threads at secret.friends.unite and visit secretfriendsunite.com. Find our merchandise at TeePublic and Redbubble. Thanks for listening, and may the Force live long and prosper.